Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those of you still on the fence figuring things out, welcome back to another episode of Derailed, courtesy of Archaic Skids. I'm, of course, your host, Archaic Skids, and we have Jose with us, which I'm excited about. What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing all right. Just living life. How you doing?
I'm great. Tell people who you are.
Jose Galison. I have a podcast called No Way Jose. Like 60 plus episodes deep. I think I'm at 299 subscribers right now. So I'm like hoping someone gives me that last fucking one. That way I can mirror my shit up to library, or Odyssey, or whatever the fuck. You know, it's basically the same damn thing.
Is that what you need? 300? I thought Odyssey you needed like 3,000.
No, I think it's 300. That's I checked.
Watch. I'm gonna hit like right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit 300, and then it's gonna like fucking be like, oh, just kidding. We changed the threshold.
Yeah.
Someone was telling me I can hit up Kaufman, the guy who runs it, and he'd just like hook me up. But I was just like, I don't know. Just felt weird. I didn't want to ask.
So I don't know. The only thing I know about that is I watched an episode of what the hell is that show called? The Hotel Been Told You or something.
Yeah.
And and he was like, he won't even do it. He's like, nah. Apparently they had some weird business thing that didn't work out, and I don't know. So he's like, I won't even use that, and I'm like, I have a Odyssey. I don't even remember the last time I uploaded anything to it. Yeah. I just mainly use just like BitChute and YouTube until YouTube just goes, no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I'm waiting till 300 because I can sync it. Because like I just have too many things I already am manually uploading. I say that, but I only have like two. I manually upload to the YouTube, and then I manually upload to my like podcast or host thing that sends them out to all of them. So it's like two things. But still, it's like I don't want a third. That's one more thing to keep track of. So it's like if I can hit the point where it'll sync it, you know, it's fucking money, and then I can just let it just sync up with my YouTube until they nuke me. Although they haven't nuked me yet, and I've said some, I don't know, fairly controversial shit. Although usually I like to talk about theory and stuff like that, or just like, so I don't know. I haven't really talked about like, you know, like the big bad pokey poke and shit like that too much. I haven't shied away from it either. It's just something that's just like, I don't know. Current events generally don't interest me unless they like kind of evoke some sort of idea that I want to talk about, you know? So, which I mean, that has been one that has definitely a lot, and I have covered it a lot, but just not specifically that thing, you know, too much. So if that makes sense.
Yeah. That doesn't it's not my favorite topic, just because it's like, well, I mean, what the hell does, I mean, whatever, you know. But I do want to discuss one thing. You are the second person to have the golden EIB microphone.
Oh yeah? I don't know. I just got this for like $30 on Amazon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what David Fight told me, is he got one for like $30 on Amazon.
Well, if you can look, I'll move this up a little bit too. I also put a little bit of the gray in there too, because when I first started, I and I still do too. My like colors are like black, yellow, and gray, because like I consider myself an agorist, and like those are the colors, black and gray of agorism. But at the same time, I still consider myself an ANCAP. So I like the mixture of all those three colors. So I took the time to just add a nice little touch of the little gray little finger paint on there, or the fuck. Nice. So yeah, so
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, little details.
It's always about the little details.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been when did you start doing your show? Because you said you're about 60 episodes in. So how long have you been doing this thing?
About 6 months ish, maybe 6 to 8. I don't know. I'm really shitty with time. I could go look it back and see, but
so you're doing like 2 episodes a week,
roughly. Yeah, I think when I kind of like picked up steam as I went, and the past couple weeks I think I've done like 3 episodes a week, but it depends on how many I have. Like we were talking in the pre, and I will release mine, like I'll record and then release it later. And I just like the freedom that gives me. And if I am able to record extra, like if I'm just, you know, God willing, if I have extra time, you know, in a week, and if I'm able to record like 3, then I'll record 3 the next or release 3 the next week. But usually it's about 2, because I don't know, I usually record around when my wife works. So, and like her schedule's erratic, so it depends on how much she's working. The more she's working, the less I'm getting laid, and the more podcast episodes I'm releasing. So,
well. There's a catch-22 on that situation then.
Yep.
Right on, man. So you were saying you don't generally cover like public stuff. That's not kind of what you like doing or whatever. So agorist, right? I think some people that like this show or watch this show may not entirely understand what that means. You wanna explain that to people a little?
Agorism. Agorism's. I don't know. It's I like to equate it a lot to like objectivism in the sense of that. I mean, not that it's lame like objectivism, but so, someone out there will get upset. But if Alex Hatch is watching, I'm sure she'll get upset. I think she considers herself kind of akin to those ideas. But I don't know. I like to look at it that way, in that it's a kind of a, because a lot of people will be like, because for example, people like Michael Malice, he likes a lot of the ideas of it. And a lot of people have been like, "Are you objectivist?" And he's like, "No, I don't accept all of the tenets." The major like points of it, and they'll be like, "Well, why don't you just consider yourself objectivist?" It's like, well, that's because Ayn Rand laid down like these things, and like this is what an objectivist is, and that's kind of the same thing with Konkin. For example, I know a lot of people get caught up with like, for example, the political side of things, because big thing with agorism is it's non-political. Like Konkin, what's the line? I think he said something along the lines of something about your means being consistent with your ends, and since our ends is anarchy, you kind of are essentially living anarchy in a sense. And a lot of people like to, because agorism's kind of become this catchy thing in my opinion, and a lot of people like to throw out that I'm an agorism, I'm an agorist, whatever. And like I'd say probably over half of them haven't read Konkin, and then even then a lot of them have, but then they will be like, "Oh, I'm agorist, but I'm involved politically," which whatever, I don't care, like do that. But I mean, technically that was kind of a big part of Konkin's shit, so it's like, is that label? Like he was pretty consistent with like, this is what agorism is, and if that's you, like this is an agorism, which whatever. I mean, labels are labels. Like who cares? I'm not like some gatekeeper. I don't ever make a thing of it, but it's like technically.
Yeah. So it's just your own personal thinking on the matter.
Yeah.
And I'm how you look at things.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of labels either. It's just that's the label that most accurately describes kind of where my head's at right now. And maybe that'll change later. And I have like minor quibbles with like Konkin's theories, but for the most part, yeah. I mean, agorism, I don't know if you want me to go into it, explain it more. I mean, most people of our audience probably know what it is, but
yeah. I think so. I just, anyone out there that was a little off. You mentioned Alex Hatch. She's brilliant. I like her and Barbara. They're very funny.
Yeah, cool.
They were on the show. But so as far as not covering the whatever's going on in the course of whatever day or week or whatever, is there a reason that is it just literally not interesting to you, or is it like you're like, well, I can't do shit about it, so fuck it? Like, how's that work out?
A bit of both. I mean, because I used to be a huge current events junkie. I was good at following everything, like every foreign policy type thing, every little thing. I was like pretty much on it and covering. But just the past year has just been like hyperdrive, and I just like, I don't know if it's just me and I'm like an all or nothing kind of guy, but like where I wasn't able to follow current events to a point to where I felt like competent on what was going on, because so much happened this past year that I guess it just kind of fizzled out. And I just like, I mean, I don't know, don't get me wrong, I still like pop in here and there, like on certain current events, but it's definitely not my focus. I'm far more interested in, I don't know, like getting myself to a better spot, and then like also trying to further the message of like that kind of stuff of like, I don't know, creating independence and stuff like that in your own life. And I don't know, it's just kind of like, I feel like most current events things are just kind of like, you just kind of get, I don't know, they're almost, I think a lot of them are times are a distraction from like the larger things going on. So, I mean, I don't know, especially the day-to-day shit. I mean, you can I like to pay attention to some of the bigger stuff, but especially the day-to-day stuff is a lot of time it just is kind of an illusion. Because it's like, I can't tell you how many times like some normie friend will be like, "What do you think about this bill that and they're going to take away the guns or this or that?" And I'm like, I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Like most of the time it's just horse shit, and you're like, well, this is just so and so just doing a political play. It's not going to go anywhere. Like, who cares? Blah blah blah. And like, and the same thing happens with like our type people, like ANCAPs, like anarchists, agorists, libertarians. They do the same shit where they'll be like, they'll get caught up on the daily grind of like this bill or that thing, and you're like, sometimes just like, who fucking cares?
No, I get. I guess my concern in those situations is that, well, okay, as far as like they're going to take away the guns, they're only going to take away the guns from people that just give them up.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, it just don't give them up. And I'm not talking about a boating accident. I'm talking about Magnus Panvidia that bitch and don't give them up. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, it
and I
depends.
don't mean that to be anything like. I'm just saying that dude's got the backbone to be like, make me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
so,
it depends on the situation. I get what you're saying. If you feel comfortable to throw the big middle finger up and say, no, I'm not turning him in. I mean, I generally would probably advocate the I lost him in an accident type thing, because I know, depending on who you are, if you are like someone like Panvidia with like, a single dude that's all about it, fucking,
I guess if you have
like,
family and babies and everything, yeah, sure, it might change the game a little.
Yeah, and even then, like, I'm a big fan of the thought process of like, you're no use to anybody in jail or dead. So
Sure.
like, if you can throw a big middle finger up and you feel like you're gonna be okay, but at the same time, I mean, that's kind of a big thing with agorism. A lot of it is about, a lot of people like accuse it of being like, oh, what are you gonna do? Live out in the woods, blah blah blah. But it's like a big part of agorism is like gray, like in how it's not black or white, and you do what you can, and it's like, you're no use. Like, there's literally an equation in I don't know if it's an NLM or Agorist Primer, but it's in one of the books of like when you should take a risk with like a like say like tax evasion or something. Like, there's literally like, he made an equation, and it's like to evade getting in trouble or any sort of major trouble. Like, so like, you're no use to anyone in jail. Like, I'm more of a like, push it to the limit to where you can find where the line is and just stay right at that line and keep pushing the line further and further. You know what I mean? There's no point in crossing the line. I mean, maybe you can make a case for broader, like, maybe like a martyr or whatever, but I don't know. I don't personally, I'm not a big fan of that.
I don't think anyone makes a case to be a martyr. Like, I don't think that's a thing that anyone's like, I'm going to be a martyr today. Yeah. I think that it just happens sometimes. And I think it's happenstance that people just get in a situation and their response to that situation causes whatever, outcome. And that's, it just happens. I don't think anyone we go from Jesus to MLK to Malcolm X to whatever. I don't think any of them woke up that morning and went, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to go be a martyr. Yeah. Like, I think it just happens.
Yeah. I mean, some people consciously make the decision, and that's fine. More power to you. I think tactically, generally speaking, not always the best idea. Sometimes it is, though. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where I'd stand.
Yeah, it's a weird. That's where I've run into trouble with it. Is that I do agree with you. Like, if you have a family and children, and this doesn't go for everyone, because some people with family and children will go, look, man, there's a line in the sand, and if it gets crossed, I'm going to push back with whatever I need to push back with. But I do agree with you that, like, some people have more to lose than others, and I don't mean that like without irreverence, because losing your life, for instance, right, is that's a big fucking deal. You know what I mean?
Game over.
Yeah, like that's you better. I don't know where you are, at least religiously, but you better hope you're on the right side of it, one way or another. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a common example I like to use to illustrate what I'm getting at here is there was a I wish I could remember more details. I'm going to have to like look this up one of these days because I use it frequently. But there was a fucking dude who got pulled over, and I don't remember all the details, but like I don't think he was doing anything necessarily wrong. I don't think it was like expired tag, something stupid. And he got pulled over by the cops, and they were trying to get him to get out of the car, and he kept being like, "No, I'm not doing anything wrong. Like, I just want to go home. Please leave me alone." And they like, in the end, they ended up tasering him multiple times, like trying to yank him out of the car over and over again. And they were just straight up assaulting him. So from like our perspective, I don't know. I guess I don't know if you're like an anarchist too. I'm assuming you are. But
yeah, probably maybe a little more than you are in a way, but yeah.
But from like my perspective in this situation, anyways, what ends up happening is a dude gets yanked out of the car after being assaulted multiple times by the cops, and when he finally does get pulled out of the car, he yanks out his gun and blows them both away. And like, my point I'm getting at here is like, I think that's morally 100% in the right, because they were assaulting him. He defended themselves. It was self-defense through and through, in my opinion. I know a lot of people, anyone listening to this probably status is probably just like pulling their hair out right now because like, oh my God, how would you say that? But he was perfectly polite. He wasn't doing anything wrong aside from, maybe in your status paradigm he was, not yours, but the listeners or whoever status out there, but nothing wrong. But tactically that was pretty dumb, because like like that dude is gonna probably sit in jail for the rest of his life, if not get killed. So like,
well,
what did he get out
honestly,
of it?
He's probably going to get killed.
Yeah, and what did he get out of it? Like,
Yeah.
so it's like morally completely okay. And if anything, I'm kind of like more power to you, buddy. I wouldn't do it. If that's what you want to do, go for it. I'm definitely not gonna.
No, I fully can support that and understand that. I guess my outlook is that in a way, I kind of look at it that it's like, if you're not willing to take the risk, right, yourself, then it's kind of the same argument as if you don't vote for this candidate or this candidate, you wasted your vote. And it's like, no, actually, that I don't actually fall in that. I look at it that if you're voting for the least of two evils, you wasted your vote. And also, voting's fucking stupid. But but I mean, I guess I understand your perception, your point there. I just think that that I got mad respect for those people that are like, no, I am willing to take the final solution if necessary to protect myself, even though it almost never works for them.
Yeah,
but it's maybe if more of us did it, there would be less of that shit happening, I suppose. I mean, but the problem is will people do it, and when should they do it? And like, who are you? And like, until you're confronted with it, then it's a different situation. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But I understand your perception on that, especially when you got wife and children and all this stuff. It's
all about tactics, really. It's like I put out a tweet yesterday that said the state by its very existence breaks the NAP, but it's like, so any action against the state to in order to get like recompense or self-defense is completely okay. I mean, it literally just, I guess it depends on what your ends are, but
it's like self-defense. Yeah,
it's self-defense in a sense, but at the same time, it's like, I can't remember how I worded it, but essentially what I was getting at is that all that really matters is tactics. Because, we want to get rid of it. I mean, I'm not a big fan of like the boog per se. It depends on how you define it. Because there's people define it multiple ways. Civil War, 1776. I mean, I'm completely okay with like a collectivized defense. I think that's great. If we could get something like that together, like, I don't know if you've heard of freedom cells. Like the end goal of that would be something along those lines, to where it's like, hey, Johnny's getting red flagged. All right, call up the freedom cell, fucking. And they show up in force and say, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, I'm all about it. But now, like, so that's like tactics. That's what I'm talking about. So that's why, like, I'm all for it in a sense. I think you got to be smart in how you go about doing things.
Yeah, I think, tactics is obviously probably the most important thing in any situation, rather it's business dealings or what. I mean, even if you're just in there like trying to get a new job or whatever, how there's some tactics involved in that situation of how do you negotiate for better wages, better benefits, whatever. You can't just be like, well, fuck you, pay me this much or else. Is there gonna be like, no? Like, you gotta work it out. You know what I mean? Oh, homie's got a PBR. We are rednecking it now.
Fucking white boy summer, baby.
Nice. Based on shit. See, you made me lose my train of thought. God damn it. The show is called Derailed, so it's fine. And it'll come back eventually. But
what the fuck's up, Reed?
Religion is fake and gay. Yep.
It's fake.
Here we go. Here we go. He just does this. He just likes to troll me and like torture me because he knows that I am Christian. So, especially when he knows I'm talking to an atheist, he's like, I'm gonna fuck with him now. Like, it's all good. Yeah. But that's I guess one of those situations too. Tactics. Yeah. Fuck. See, I completely lost my train of thought. He derailed me. You talk for a minute while I recoup my thinking.
All right. So religion is fake and gay. I did think it was kind of interesting. You mentioned tactics, and to bring it back to religion, I used to be, a angry atheist, and I do think, personally, I'm of the opinion that I would rather someone come to their conclusions from a logical perspective. And my opinion is that like your religion is kind of illogical to some extent. And I obviously we have disagreements there, but I have found that, as with a lot of things, it helps if you're not a cunt about delivering messages. So the angry atheist or the angry anarchist or whatever, I think generally that's the shittiest tactic to go about. I know that's another thing with me being an agorist
or Christianity or anything else.
Yeah. And me being an agorist, I know that's a common thing. People like get mad at agorist people who advocate not utilizing the political system in any way, shape, or form. Whether that be like to fucking say with like the LPMC takeover and shit, and like, being like, oh, we're going to use this for messaging. Like, I don't agree with that. I have my reasons, but I generally try to not be a cunt about it, and I don't really even make a thing of it unless someone asks me about it. Because if I'm a cunt about it, then you just come off some hater that's trying to be like a dick.
Right.
Then everyone just immediately dismisses you anyways. So,
yeah, people don't listen to people that are mean to them. It's weird. I know. I mean, it's shocking, weird human reaction to, hey, if you're going to be a dick, I'm just going to ignore you.
Yeah.
Like, that's true. Weird. I don't know. Yeah. So, to the
Oh, real quick, I did also want to say another big reason not to be a dick too is because you could be fucking wrong. That is one thing I think people need to remind themselves all the time, no matter what it fucking is. You could probably be wrong. So like, I think you need to approach basically everything with some sort of humility of like, I could be wrong, because damn near every position I've arrived to, I was at a different position at one point, and I probably will be at a different position for a lot of these things another time too. So it's like, why be a cunt? Because it's just something that I'm most likely going to look back at like 5 years from now and be like, oh, I was a fucking asshole. Where's the line between base and being a dick? That's a good question. Once
whenever
again,
you figure that out, Reed, you let us know.
My opinion is on that real quick. I think when you're talking about dealing with people, and especially like ideas, it depends on who your audience is. So being nice, or like, I think it works better in like one-on-one or more private situations. But the whole based thing, or like being like fucking with people online or slam dunking, I actually think it has its utility, as long as you're making a point. But I think it has to be in a situation where you have onlookers. Like if I'm shitting on fucking, I don't know, say Castley, the fucking, what's his name? He's the fucking neocon. If you're being a dick to him, like, who cares? But don't expect to get him to come to your side. That's not the point. What you're trying to do is create a spectacle for other people to see. So you're humiliating this person for the purpose of showing everyone else like a message that you're trying to drive,
I kind of feel like Archie would say that's a violation of the NAP.
No, I would kind of say Archie can eat a dick.
Okay. There's the difference right there. He just answered it for you, Reed. That's the difference between based and being a dick. I would say this, like, I saw a tweet. I think I mentioned it. Well, no, I know I mentioned it last night. Where someone said, just so everyone knows, more children died at Waco than Sandy Hook. I see that as just super based.
Super based.
Very many people did not see it the way I saw it, but I saw it as super based. Like, I was like, damn, like that just, and that's all it said. You know what I mean? It was like, it was such a good point that it was like, anyone, obviously us and anyone in the chat here knows, or the viewers know, that what that means is the U.S. government is more likely to kill you than any of these little sociopaths that run around. You know what I mean?
Now, if you mention that to someone whose kid died at Sandy Hook, all right,
I would never do that. I would never. Yeah, then you would be a dick. Like, if you were like, well, I'm sorry. Well, I mean, but no, that would be a dick move. That's not base. That's dick. That's Alex Jones' dick move right there.
Reed says, I honestly don't think I'm a dick unless I'm talking about, I'm going to swap out words here so we don't get taken off, those that sit above in shadow, in which case I don't give a fuck.
I actually agree with him on that.
Yeah, I love posting about that.
Yeah. The oven people, when you're going after them, it becomes problematic.
Dude, real quick, I think it was you, or maybe it was another live stream. I was in the comment thing and I typed in like the Jews, Joos, and like thinking, because it won't let certain comments be viewable. And
Yes.
I went and looked at it from my other account to see if it was viewable. No, wasn't viewable. And I didn't say anything else inappropriate at all. I think I just said something about like, I wish I could remember what it was, but just it literally censored Jews spelled wrong, like just JOOOOS.
Well, they're just getting better at their nonsense, you know.
No, that's fucking based.
That's an interesting. Like, they don't know what you're talking about when you say that. So, you know. By the way, unlike Reed, I'm not anti their religion. I'm just anti what they're doing from their homeland, so to speak. Anyway, that aside, we covered some of that last night. We don't need to recover it tonight. But are you familiar with Colleen Noir?
Colleen Noir, yeah, I'm familiar with him. He's usually pretty good. I dig him so far as, you know.
He's pretty good. He's not, I wouldn't, like, he doesn't have any videos fucking nearly as based as, like, Reed would, like, look at this little boomstick that I have that's, like, I might get a splinter and, you know what I mean? By the way, that's probably brought more people to his side and turned people away from him than anything he's ever done. Anyway, he put out this great video today. I don't know when he put it out, but I saw it today, where they just took that sociopath they want to run the ATF. And Dawson made a very good point last night. They're all sociopaths, but he's maybe among the top lately. Anyway, he put out this video, which is just all the best questions that were essentially asked of him, right? And it was a pretty good video, except for what's that chick from Hawaii, the senator, Hana Haroro or whatever the fuck her name is, right?
Mama Gabbard fucking with her mommy milkers.
No, not the congresswoman. The senator,
the Asian chick who fucking, I don't know her name, but I know you're talking about. I believe I vaguely know what you're talking about.
Yeah, she asked him a question, and I didn't see this, so I mean this. I completely missed it. And I know you're not up on all the new, whatever, day-to-day stuff, but she asked him a question that was, where does it say in the Constitution that Congress does not have the ability to take guns away from people? Now, just thoughts. Your thoughts.
My thoughts on... I guess I don't really give a shit what the Congress thinks they can or can't do. So, like, at the end of the day, that's kind of like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I already have guns. They're not going anywhere. You know, like, I mean, for legal reasons, that's a joke, you know, but, you know, like, because I said I'm not going to be one that will, like, there's a lot of places to hide, you know, so I live around the country. I mean,
you'll have a boating accident.
Yeah. I mean, I live probably like 45 minutes away from fucking Sal the Agris, so I can go fucking buy a 3D printer or two from him, make some fucking gun that'll probably jam after 2 shots, you know, but like, but a gun's a gun, you know, like, so like I can figure it out. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about 3D printing is the gun debate. It's kind of over, and it's really like,
I don't think it's kind of over. I think it's over.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like,
what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, I'm not saying that we shouldn't pay attention to current events at all, but like, for example, like here we are, like, and they're, what's his name? Chipman, some dude who fucking killed a bunch of people at Waco, and here we are arguing.
Butcher of Waco. That's a shout out to Jessica Green.
Yeah. So here we are, not me and you, but like in general as a nation, we're fucking bickering about whether this fucking dude should be like head of the ATF. It's like, isn't that kind of like missing the point? Like, why the fuck do we even have an ATF? Like, like I don't get, like, don't get me wrong, this guy's a piece of shit, but like, I mean. What like I don't know, why are we even arguing about who gets put in there? Like, either way, it's gonna be shitty. The ATF is fucking notoriously horrible. Like, they make up like fucking, you know, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Basically they kind of almost legislate from the ATF, like what is okay and what isn't.
Not basically, they do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They have a regulatory regulatory informative status, which means that they can take whatever Congress says and then they can interpret that to mean what they want it to mean. So it's it doesn't really matter. I'm 100% with you. Like, my biggest issue with him is this person is a fucking sociopath that stood on the dead babies and took pictures, and he's proud of. Well, okay, I'm sorry. Snope said that wasn't him, so it's it didn't happen. But I mean, the obvious answer is get rid of the ATF and also every other government agency ever.
Yeah, if there was some shadowy organization that fucking controlled the world, it wouldn't really be that dumb of a move right now for them to put this guy here, because we had the past year, everyone got super fucking based about Waco, and then now you take the guy and put him in charge of that fucking administration, or in charge of that fucking organization. And now like I said, we're sitting here bickering about whether this dickhead should be in head of the ATF instead of missing the bigger point of why the fuck do we have an ATF? Like,
yeah, I don't think I don't think they actually think he'll get through. I honestly, I think it's intentional. I think it's a psyop. Honestly, I really do. Because how are you going to pick the worst possible person you could ever find and throw him up unless you have a just slightly less worse person, right?
Yeah. Those that sit above the shadow are crafty people.
That's not what I meant by oven people, but okay.
I mean, if there were people running this, I mean, maybe there are, maybe there aren't, but like, if there were some big dogs running this shit from the top, it's just like, this would be the smartest move. You're probably right. Like, maybe that guy doesn't get pushed through, but then what happens is when they push through the next guy who's just like some nobody.
Yeah, they'll be like, well, he's not nearly as bad. And he could actually be worse, honestly.
Yeah. And then it kind of diffuses all that like negative attention the ATF has gotten for the past year. And this guy's not so bad. We'll push him through, and same old game, over again.
Yeah, it's like and that's how I see this whole the situation now, where you weren't allowed to talk about it. Now apparently you can kind of talk about it. Where did Dos Equis' cousin originate? Right? Was it in a laboratory? Was it in a fruit market that we're gonna, where you sell animals and shit? Now all of a sudden they're like, no, it's okay. It might have started there. And I'm like, wait, what the fuck are you? It's kind of the same thing when they're like all this UFO shit coming out now from the actual U.S. government. I'm always afraid when the spooks are screwing around.
Yeah, no, it's weird shit for sure. It's funny too that this year though, all this like UFO shit came out and like no one gave a fuck. Like it was kind of like, okay, cool. Like, and I was like, I've been one of the biggest like alien people like my whole life. Like, just I was like always been really enamored with it, just because kind of cool shit. And just even me this year, I'm like, whatever, I don't give a fuck. Like, especially because
what it is. I could tell you, Jose. I could tell you 100%. Since Battlestar Galactica, we have not had any really good space shows.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I'd have to think on that one. I mean, that's not even, I'm just saying, like, I just don't even care. For one, it's like, I think it's because with everything going on, it's like I have real world shit going on. So it's like, I don't really give a fuck. And then also, on the other hand, it's like, if I'm hearing this information from the fucking government, I'm already like suspect of like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I do think there are aliens. I'm not sure if they visited Earth, but if now the government's telling me they're visiting Earth, I'm like, I don't know, I'm pretty much in the same place I was before, because I don't like that doesn't really either confirm or deny shit for me. So,
yeah. Wear a mask. Don't wear a mask. Whatever. Yeah. We don't know. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I mean, I think mathematically the alien thing is. I don't know how if you and not SJW math, not 2 + 2 can be 5. I mean, like legit math, right? Mathematics as we've known it our entire lives. The mathematical chance of there not being aliens is, I mean, well, yeah, there is. Like, let's put it like this. It's way better than you winning the Powerball.
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely agree. There is probably other life out there, and almost certainly sentient life. Now, the big question is, though, is like, I mean, we don't really have a firm grasp on how likely it is that, like, or how hard it is for life to come about. For all we know, it could be, like, actually way more easier than we think, because we have the whole concept of, like, the Goldilocks zone. That's how we determine if, like, a fucking planet is likely to have life. But
and that's all based on our planet.
Most likely, it's probably pretty goddamn hard, and there's probably fairly stringent conditions for life to arise. But like with that being said, it's the idea of like the chances. Like if you look at statistically, like most likely it's like way away from us. So it's like the fact that they can even get to us is like they would probably have to be light years away. Like the chances that we have life on a planet next to us is like basically infinitesimally small. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, maybe fucking, I don't know.
In our own galaxy,
yeah,
it's probably almost not even possible.
Yeah. So now the fact that if there are people visiting us, it's like don't fuck with them because they like we're nothing to them.
No, because they will destroy us. Like, you know, if you're worried about China and America going to war, you ain't got shit yet, buddy. Because like if these things can travel across galaxies, we're dead. Like there is no question. They will harvest you for whatever it is they want, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, yeah, that's nutty. I don't know about all that. Or we're an anthill, and they're like, let's study the little like apes until they figure out how to, you know, do stuff.
It is funny though, the conspiracy that like they're gonna make like an alien thing and like to be like for us to group up together to like fight them or some shit. But it's like, I don't know if that ever happened. It'd be like, what the like. I don't know. I feel
what are you going to do? You're still going to die.
Like most people, I feel like, okay, well, they're just let them be in charge because, I mean,
there were great movies when I was a kid, but in the other side of that too is that as an adult, when you actually start to realize that kind of stuff, right? You're like, okay, so if this thing travels across a galaxy or multiple galaxies, possibly, right? And you fought them. No, you didn't fight them off. Shut up. Like they're gonna. But then again, I also just watched the U.S. military for 20 years fight people in flip flops, and they can't seem to win that either. So maybe you could fight. I don't know. You know what I mean? Technology doesn't necessarily mean better.
Well, to bring it back to libertarianism, an anarchic world would actually probably have a much better chance of fending off aliens than a fucking than what we have. Because the thing is, like, but like maybe we could, but as a nations we couldn't, because the problem is like it's the whole idea of like with nations, you know, the reason why we struggle with places like Afghanistan and shit like that because they're so decentralized. It's not really like one. It's not like a group or a person we can beat and be like we win. You know what I
mean? yeah, no, that's not. Yeah, that's not. You know, I do think that it is possible that like the book The Watchmen, right, where it's like. They fake it to unify the world. I could see that might actually work. Like if a true invasion would probably unify most of the world anyway. Enough of it that it, you know, you might actually have some unity for a minute. Cowboys versus aliens, fucking read.
They have to get their story together big time though, because I feel like there'd be so many goddamn holes in a fucking alien fucking. Narrative, if they try to push some crazy shit like that, that's like next level conspiracy shit. Like, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I never would have guessed the events of the past couple of years. So,
dude, yeah, I can't remember what it was. I saw it on Twitter earlier, but it was some lady and she was asking about prohibition and how it happened, and she goes, a lot of people blame it on women, but women didn't have the right to vote, which means this was men that voted for this shit. And I was like, okay, technically, historically, a lot of votes, that's not really how it happened, right? People were just like, shit just happened and they didn't even know what was going on. A lot of people didn't even know shit was going on. It just did. But it was an interesting situation because I was like, that's actually... that's got more to it than that. So you look at all these people I saw in the comments were like, well, this or that or whatever, you know. And then a couple of people were like, what do you mean, how did it happen? Look at last year, right? Look at the last 15, 16 months. What do you mean, how did it happen? It's the same question of how did Germany pull off what they pulled off? The same way they fucking just pulled it off over last year. Like, how many people, your honest opinion, if they said, well, you know what, we're going to have to actually violently make these people get this Fauci ouchie, this jab, this whatever, right? Because they won't do it because they refuse. How many people would do it right now?
How many people would what? How would go along with it?
Would try to force it.
I don't know, man. That's a hard one. I feel like, I mean, maybe I'm just being optimistic, but I do feel like that wouldn't be tenable right now. Like, and I don't know.
I don't think it's tenable they could do it. I'm saying it's tenable that a bunch of them would try.
Oh, the support? Oh, the support. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe like, I don't know. I feel like, especially because the narrative is kind of starting to crumble a little bit. But I mean, a few months ago, I mean, it would have been a fucking ridiculous amount. Like, I don't know, maybe upwards of 50. I don't know. It depends because it's so hard.
It would have been enough. It would have been a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's so hard. Like whenever we talk about shit like this, because I'm in Florida. I mean, and so like, don't get me wrong, we've had our shit, but it's like I also
a lot of people would be like, "Lucky bastard."
Yeah, so I'm like, I have a little bit more of a sunny disposition, and a lot of times when it comes to a lot of this COVID stuff, to some extent. But I mean, even then, I'm still a little bit of a doomer in a sense. I very much tried to. I think it was Molbug who came up with it, but I've tried to a little bit here and there popularize the concept of the clear pill. Because, I mean, I'm not necessarily a doomer, but I'm definitely not, like, optimistic either. But it's one of those things of, like, the clear pill is, like, kind of just, like, a realism of, like, all right, this is where shit's at. If here's the formula to make your life possibly better, it's not a guarantee, go fucking do it. Like, this is realism.
There is no guarantee.
Like,
no matter what, you're going to run into shit, and there's no way around that. For sure. I like Michael Malice's white pill argument better than your clear pill. I would like to hope he's more right than you are, but you know, I'll accept either. Like, whatever.
My thing is though, I like, I think I guess it depends on how you look at it. Like, I do think there is a white pill in a sense, and like there's optimism to be had, but I do think there are probably going forward going to be places that fucking go to shit. So because I see further bifurcation as things go on, further divide as you know the decades go on from now. I think we're going to start getting into. I don't know, we're going to have like.
You think it's going to take decades before this thing comes apart?
Maybe not decades. Maybe I don't know. I'd say at least a decade. I mean, but decades. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'd say under 50 for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you're being pretty generous in saying like that.
So I see the blue states and the cities getting to be way more authoritarian and vice versa with the yin and the yang. I see the red state rural areas are going to start getting more lax. And I'm not necessarily, I mean, I'm kind of like playing predictions here, but if I had to guess, I don't think we're necessarily going to get maybe a secession per se, or a explicit nullification or whatever, maybe here and there. But I've been saying soft secession for a while. So like what I'm thinking is going to be in like a decade or two from now, we'll be seeing like, you know, maybe the federal government pushing through shit, or maybe not in federal government. Maybe it'll happen in just the blue cities and shit get further shittier. But then what'll happen is then like the rural like red state areas will be like, yeah, well, we're not doing that. And it may not be like an explicit like.
Well, they're already doing that.
Yeah.
They're how many quote unquote sanctuary states do we now have, or sanctuary cities or whatever, right? Where they're like, you know, we're not enforcing any of your gun laws, or we're not doing any of that. And in some of these states, they've like legit said, if federal agents show up to enforce it, local law enforcement is supposed to take them out of the equation and be like, no, you can't enforce it. It's already happening. And what's curious to me is I spent, I don't know, the last, I don't know when California started it necessarily. I don't even know if it was California, honestly. But the last, it's been 8-10 years or something, where they started setting up these sanctuary cities for immigrants, right? Illegal immigrants. Sorry, my bad, YouTube. People here without papers. I don't know what they fucking call them. But anyway.
But that's kind of what's getting at.
And the red states went nutty, right? And the Republicans went batshit crazy about this. They can't do that. There's laws. Blah. And now their own states are starting to do the same thing with like gun laws and constitutional carry and all that, but more than constitutional carry. It's not like you can just carry your firearm, which, by the way, if you care about the Constitution, I don't, because I think it's useless, but they're saying we are going to follow that doctrine that you just can, right? Some of them are even going a step above and saying we will not allow federal agents to enforce federal gun law in our area. It's a sanctuary thing. It's the same damn thing. That's actually the biggest. That's the biggest white pill to me.
Well, that's what I'm getting at though with the white pill, because what I'm trying to illustrate here is that it's not as simple as a binary of white or black, because I think the clear pill is a more useful concept because it's the idea of like, hey, yes, things can be good, but you got to go fucking do something. And even then, it's not necessarily, it's just realism. So like, I do think there's usefulness for there being you having a period of time with the black and the white, but I think if you're just, white pill, like you could be some person living in a city in fucking Cali and be like, the fucking white pill. And it's like, not for you, buddy.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right.
So that's what I'm getting at. So it's like realism. Like, all right, shit's gonna get different. Not necessarily bad everywhere. Not necessarily good everywhere. Here is what's going on. Fucking act accordingly. Like
right. I mean, what are you gonna do? You just have to.
Yeah.
In a sense, you're in a wing it moment.
Yeah. And we quibbled about the time just earlier, about like how long it'll be for shit to go to shit. But it's like, say it even is 40, 50, 60 years from now. I don't think so. But like, let's say it is. You know what? Making those steps now is going to benefit you and your offspring, because like I've equated this
probably more likely your offspring, but I get you.
But my point is, like, because like I've talked about this quite a bit. This has been a frequent thing I've talked about, this concept, and like it's kind of like religion. So if you are, like what would you assume if you were born in the Middle East? I know you're Christian, but let's say you were born in the Middle East. What do you think your religion would be? I'm
assuming I would be a Muslim.
Yeah, so I mean that was a little bit rhetorical, but so like fucking you would probably be Muslim. So here's the thing, like you could be right now, like me and you, let's say I lived in Cali and I lived in the city, and I could be like, oh, white pill, woohoo, things are gonna be great going forward, and I don't do a goddamn thing and I just hang out in this area. It's probably gonna go to shit, and I could be the biggest anarchist in the world and try to pass this shit on to my kids and so on and so forth. But at the same time, that would be kind of like being an atheist in fucking Afghanistan. It's like I can try to pass the shit on to my kids, but chances are they're probably going to be influenced by their surroundings, and they're probably not going to be. So you are essentially setting your future generations up to just be in there. So like it's just very much like you need to get the fuck out of there, like that and then like, and I get it, it's not realistic for everybody, but you can make minor steps, even if you absolutely can't move. And there's other things you can do. You can become less dependent on the state. Like I do. That's another thing, because I do think it's going to be. In the future going forward, we've kind of seen it where we've had like kind of basically like almost like a UBI now in a sense, with the stimmies.
No, so, we have UBI.
Yeah. So like
that's happening.
That
and
right
it's
there,
a massive failure.
So, I mean, I'm all about give me the goddamn stimmies. But the thing is, you need to take those stimmies and fucking use it to become less dependent on the state, not more dependent. Because some people are like using that to be like, oh, thank God I can finally pay bills and whatever. Which that's great and all too. But like, don't make that a thing you count on. I mean, if you absolutely have to, and like for some reason your financial situation, you need those stimmies. I mean, it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do. But you definitely shouldn't be counting on them to be able to, like, this should be like a, cool, I can get more out of debt or whatever. Like, you need to be doing shit to get yourself out of the...
Well, either more out of debt or better set up for future.
Yes. So even if you can't move, you could still be like a full-on agorist in the city and be like, I mean, maybe not full on, but you could be pretty goddamn independent from the government in a area like that. And you will be in a better... I still wouldn't advise it for the future, but it's still better than being, being there and also being dependent on the state,
Yeah, 100%. To that point of that, and I guess just to just fuck with you in a way. What do you think about and this is now happening all over the country, but there's the biggest one is probably the Northern Idaho project or whatever, where all these counties in Oregon have now actually voted to leave the state of Oregon and join the state of Idaho because they don't feel like they're being represented, which in all honesty, they're not. Like, that's true, right? So this is happening in a lot of places where counties now, the counties or whatever, cities are saying, look, this doesn't work. We're right here. We border this state. That's better. We want to just become part of that state. By the way, this is not without precedence. This has happened before. Granted, it was also right after the Civil War, but that's not my point. My point is, do you think that would help if everyone just went, you know what, that's actually a pretty decent idea. Let's redraw the state lines and move some people into different areas for representation purposes.
I don't know. I'd have to think more about that. I don't really know much about that situation. I don't really know, honestly, much about the two states and how authoritarian either is. But, like, I mean, I have to think about that more. I don't really have, like, a strong opinion one way or the other. I mean, I always advocate, I don't know, my being, like, I know a lot of, like, agorists or non-voting anarchists or whatever you want to call them are very strict about it. I come from a spot of tactics. So, like, I think tactically it's better to not be involved at all in the long run. But, like, I'm not, like, morally against it. I know a lot of people are like, I very much agree with Spooner's take and that it's self-defense and that, like, you know, I mean, I may disagree that it actually works out in the long run, but for you as a person individually, you are doing what you think is going to defend yourself or whatever. And so what I'm getting at is, I'm not against it, like, morally. I'm against it tactically. But even then, like, if there were a situation, like, say some crazy fucking, you know, vote was like, say they were going to, like, take out the income tax and it was actually like a straight up, I forget what the term is, where it's like it straight up just goes to the people, doesn't even go through representatives, whatever. Sure. If they had some crazy situation like that where it was like, there was no way they could fuck with it, I'll run to the goddamn voting booth. You know what I mean? Like, like, but that's just generally not how it usually works. You know what I mean? Like, so, but even then I would advocate generally not being involved in that sense. Cause I do think in a weird way, actually not being politically involved actually has political consequences. Cause for example, like, let's say 100% of us just this year, just stop voting, period. And, like, everyone in the world, everyone in the goddamn country, stop voting, stop being politically involved, period. The government would just no longer exist. It would just go away. But
I kind of feel like they would figure out how to.
But I mean, this is ridiculous theoretical, but I'm using the illustrated point. But now what happens when you get 90%, 80%, 70%, 60%, 50%? I think the more people who check out, the more people that are like, they see how many people aren't voting. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, then you'll have like 10% that are fucking controlling the whole goddamn country and you know controlling all of you.
Yeah, but that's like, on you.
But my point being is, like, if you only say there's only 10% of people voted, it's like then you have a 90% of people who have completely opted out. And, like, yeah, maybe they aren't violent, but they clearly, you got to realize as an elected official that you are riding a tight line and you have people who don't really recognize your authority too much. So, like, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. What is it? I mean, it's literally in our quote unquote founding documents, right? The consent of the governed. If you lose that consent, you ain't got no power. Like, January 6th was an insurrection. No, bitch, you have no idea what that would look like. And trust me, it would not be grandma in there with their little flag taking a picture with a cop. Like, don't be dumb. Like, that's, and you know, I suppose part of the issue for me is that we are getting closer to that, not further away from that. And you know, I don't like violence, but I'm also a person that understands that violence has a role, right? Like, if people are being violent towards you, yes, you're absolutely allowed to use violence to stop that from happening to you or to your family or whatever the situation may be. The question becomes, in these situations, when does the government violate people to a point that violence becomes their only option? I don't know that we're there yet, but I think these idiots are really starting to push their limits. And I don't know where that, and I don't want to see it happen. I'm just saying that I think that I mean, how long has those fucking cages been around Washington, D.C.?
I think it's a bit of a false binary. I don't think it's as simple as, oh, these people are fucking around and we need to, uprise. It's as simple as, it's like the La Boete quote of, God, I need to get better. I'm like memorizing quotes. But it's like, I don't expect you to put hands upon the tyrant. I expect you to walk away is essentially what it is. So like, that's kind of like where my agorism thing comes in, where it's literally, if you can just get people to be like, nah, dog, like then it kind of, I mean, it's not this magical pill. I mean, obviously, if you can somehow get 100% of the fucking people to just do that, that's not realistic. It's a matter of like, getting a critical mass or whatever. But it's really, I mean, obviously, my line would be like it's with any other NAP thing, it'd be like when they come to your goddamn house or whatever, I mean.
The problem is in this situation, and I mean, I suppose I would look at it from this. I do agree with you in that regard, except for one thing. And this is going to upset all the stadies, so just bite me that watch this. That happened. Like, one of the things that always cracks me up about Liberty Twitter, right, is whatever's going on. If anyone ever mentions World War II Germany, right, then it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. And to me, but it's happening again. And you can look at who's the good one, who's the bad one, how are they shifting perception, how are they doing all these things. And so I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm saying that the possibility exists, and we should always use history to make sure that that never happens again, or anything like that never happens again. And so I suppose that's always been my argument against that, when they go, well, it's not the same thing. It's like, no, but that wasn't the same thing when it happened as whatever they may have mentioned prior, right? But they saw something historically that was problematic, and like it doesn't matter why you see history repeating. You see it repeating, so you should do everything in your power to stop that. My issue, I suppose, that I would say to you is that by the time they get to your house, where are your allies? Are they already the oven people, or are they? You know what I mean? Yeah, like, for real. I'm not making that up.
I get what you're saying. I'm not. This isn't me saying that we should just sit on our laurels and wait till they come fuck us. I also, to your previous thing of like equating this to the World War II shit, Germany, all that, Hitler. I think that it is important to make a note that is the difference between these two scenarios is a difference of degree, not a difference of kind. It's like, so like a lot of people will be like, oh, it's like, okay, we're illustrating a principle here. In principle, there are a shitload of parallels. Mm-hmm. Obviously, by degree, it's different. I mean, maybe it'll get worse later. Who fucking knows? But, but I'm not saying at all we should sit on laurels. That's why I mentioned freedom cells earlier. I do think there is something to, like, people making this binary of, like, we either need to uprise and fucking have a big old boog, or we need to fucking, or just let daddy government fuck us. Like, it's not the same as that. Like, you need to, it's the same thing of, like, you set up defenses around your house. You put up a fence. You maybe have a dog in your yard. You have guns. Like, you don't just like completely defenseless and be like, oh my God, like they're here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's why I brought up freedom cells earlier. Like, I do think people need to, that's a big one, shit like that. Or even just, being familiar with people in your local area. Like, I don't know, who was it? I think I was listening to Magnus Video. I used to be big into the boog shit back in the day. And I think it was Whiskey Warrior, or I don't remember. There's been a few scenarios. But there was one scenario where, like, literally people from across the nation were literally coming to this dude's house because he was getting red flagged. They come to find out later that the situation was a little bit, like, not what they thought. But the point being is, like, that is a thing. We need to utilize this, like, this.
It became a militia.
Yes. And I do think there's something too why the decentralization has been such a flashy word, for libertarianism, like as of late, because it makes sense, especially in today's scenario. Like that's why I'm not a big fan of shit like centralized things, because I do think there's something to having like a decentralized system fighting back. It's the same idea of why we have such trouble defeating these fucking people in the Middle East, because they're decentralized as fuck. And it's kind of the same thing here, so I think anytime we have like a centralized movement to fight against a centralized power, then now you just are creating a blocked off little thing that's easy for them to beat. So which is in essence kind of, in some ways, I mean, it's one of many reasons why I'm not a big fan of like the LP move thing that's going on as of late, because I do think we're kind of centralizing, and I'm not necessarily against centralization per se, but I do think there's something there, and that like you're essentially what's the word I'm looking for? I guess just centralizing into a very compact little movement that it's like, say for example, I love Dave Smith. He's a person who made me an anarchist, but let's say they fucking send him pictures of his fucking kid. I'm like, hey, yo, maybe here's some talking points. You know what I mean? Like, how easy would it be to steer the liberty movement one way or the other? I mean, we all like to act like we're individualists, but you know how many times I've seen people freak the fuck out on people on Twitter as soon as they like say anything bad about Dave Smith? And Dave Smith is like probably my number one like libertarian hero. I obviously disagree with him on like that shit, but like I think there's something to be said there. Like for example, like Sal the Agorist, I've seen him like call out like shit like that a couple times, and people immediately jump down his throat. It's like. So I think there's something too, and they don't ever give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, I don't know, there's something to that energy there. I mean, it's definitely not like a definitive thing, but there's something there, So it wouldn't be too hard if you take a centralized individual that's got a whole backing behind him and steered him one way. He could easily steer the movement in a different way, So
I agree with that. Yeah, I do agree with that. And the centralization. Well, here, this is something we'll let you answer, and this is primarily for Reed, David Fite, Jeremy Todd, them. So centralization happened because of them, in a way. They want liberty, unity, and they have actually really started to accomplish a lot of that, which I'm a fan of, because it's going to make the Liberty Party more, I guess, powerful going in with not everyone just at each other's throats. Maybe you'll be able to get a little more accomplished, but in the same right, then under, like what you've just said, which I don't completely disagree with, you have centralized power to specific people or areas of concern. So I don't know, defend yourself.
We're saying the lib unity thing? Is that what you're gonna like?
Yeah, because that's what really did this, because the Liberty Party has never been able to centralize anything, because they just fucking fight all the time, and they always have. But now these guys have really put something together that's, honestly, I'm not kidding. They really put something together that it's got a little force behind it. It's got a little something that might actually give them an opportunity.
I think you may be giving the Lib Unity movement a little bit too much credit. And I'm not saying you're wrong at all. If you're still watching, I'm not saying not shitting on you, but I do think had this Lib Unity thing not happened, I still think the LPMC would be doing a whirlwind of a takeover. Because,
really?
One thing, I want to make it very clear that I've definitely said I'm against political shit and stuff like that. The LPMC guys, like pretty much all the people I hang out with online, shit talk with, everything, pretty much all of them are LPMC people. And I will say, like, principally wise, like so far, they're like the shit when it comes to that. That's the one thing I disagree with, is the like utilizing, political, utilizing the political system generally. That's basically the only disagreement I have with them. Pretty much everything else I agree with them on. But I do think, and I think that's part of their
power. Michael Heiss did put something together there.
Yeah, I do think
you got to give him credit.
Yeah, I mean, and then I think that's the power of the LPMC, is that I think they are a principled movement within the Libertarian Party, and I think that's why they have so much energy behind them and why they're going to take over. I think whether they had this Lib Unity thing or not, I think they would have taken over. I think the lib unity thing, I don't know. I'm still very conflicted. I mean, I had a whole thing with Reed where we kind of like, depending on how you define it, we kind of joked about the whole fake and gay or base and awesome. Like, depending on how you define it, it can be fake and gay, or how you define it, it can be base and awesome. I mean, generally the thing I usually use a Frederick Douglass quote, and it's the I'm probably gonna butcher it once again, but I would team up with I would join with any man to do good and with no man to do bad. So I think with unity, when we're talking unity, sometimes it has a bad taste because I think unity has connotations of compromise, and I have no intention of compromising any of my stances. But if, say, some commie and me have some sort of thing that we agree on, when I agree on with that, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, that's awesome. But when we disagree on something, I'm like, no, you're fucking wrong, dude. Like, it's really that simple. Like, my agreements with you does not buy you any favor when it comes to our disagreements. So I don't know. And I think that's kind of seemed to be what Reed was trying to get at when he was lib unity. So I don't know. I have no idea how this lib unity thing is going to work out in the long run, but I don't think it was necessary to the LPMC takeover. And I do think the LPMC is going to take over, honestly. So
that is not something I can disagree with you, because all evidence points in that direction. To the point of Pennsylvania, for instance, they used something that they have always just been like, we're not gonna do it, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh hell. Anyway, we are a little over an hour, and I mean, we keep talking if you want to, but it's up to you. I don't want to keep you too long if you don't feel like staying. So
we can say as long as you want. It's fine.
Okay, cool. As far as that goes, I suppose I agree with you in that regard. That it's I think Mises is gonna run the party in 2 years for sure. Like, they're gonna have every seat, probably in multiple, not only nationally, but multiple states, whatever. I think that's basically game, set, match. And I guess that's where I see where Liberty Unity could be helpful, is that there are some outliers that are going to be just that, outliers, if they don't essentially go, look, okay, stop calling them Nazis, right? They're not. That's not true. They're like, maybe one or two of them might be kind of crappy people. It seems to me like they're able to get rid of them pretty quickly, I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know. I let myself get all like caught up in all this shit for the last few months, and it's got my brain all jacked up, and so there's that. Anyway, tell people about your show, what you've been doing, what it is you're focused on, and why the aliens are eventually going to run our planet.
Like I said before, I'm Jose Galison. I have the No Way Jose show, or podcast. I don't know, my show. When I first started out, I was very focused on like cultural topics. And I generally typically like to have like a topic that I want to cover. I like to focus on like bigger ideas.
Yeah, I know. I spent a month trying to get you on the damn show.
I told you from the beginning. I think it was a misunderstanding, because I told you from the beginning, if I was going to have you come on my show, I would want to have like a topic. And
that was the misunderstanding. Is you wanted a topic, and I'm like, why? The show's called Derailed.
No, I was talking about coming on my show, but I mean, on your, I'm going on anyone else's show. Anyone listening, I mean, I'll go on any show. I don't give a fuck. But I mean, like, so far as like my show, I typically try to have like topics, generally speaking. I don't know. I'll do different shit. Like, I've had Mark Claire on to talk about comics. I had Molly Smash, who was a fucking she's a, I don't know if you know, she's a sex worker who's also run for office, I think, in like New York. And we talked about like fucking anime and shit. And like, I don't know. I every now and then do shit like that. I try not to like, I don't know, try to be a little bit different. But
so your show is essentially Derailed too on topics. It's whatever. Whatever comes up, that's what you talk about.
I mean, but at the same time, I also kind of talk about stuff I want to talk about too. Like, just really whatever I feel like. I don't know. I mean, I don't like overly define my show. It's just shit that I like. And if you like it too, then you know whatever. We'll see.
I 100% overdefine my show.
Yeah.
People ask, "What's your show about?" And I go, "It's a shit show, and it's about whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter."
Yeah. No. For example, I have in one that's gonna get released this week. I have a health and fitness one as well that I did with. I have Liberty Lockdown on, and I also had for those
awesome.
You had for those you know other guy named Travis or Confirmed Lanklet on Twitter. I had him on. So he's very much into that kind of shit. So we talked about like being healthy and stuff and like working out. I don't know. But yeah, I just do whatever the fuck I want, really.
You just kind of wing it. I like it, man. That's 100% what I'm about. Just like, let's just fucking wing it. It'll be always fun. That's why, well, honestly, the only reason Derailed has been successful is because of Reed, like, to be honest. But he helped pump it up and shout out things and get everyone going. So you do your show. You've got a couple episodes coming out this week, you were saying. Any expectation as to when, or are you just going to drop those on people when you're ready, or how's that work?
I'm undecided if I'm doing 2 or 3 this week. The weeks that I do 3, I'll do Monday. I'll usually do like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I usually release them like the night before, but whatever, so it shows up in your queue. Or if I do 2, I'll do Tuesday, Thursday. But yeah, I got the health and fitness one I just mentioned. I also have another one that's with Top Lobster. So like just kind of going on over like what he's about and shit, like all that stuff. I really want to do a quick plug because there's one that I really
do it, man.
I've been pushing hardcore. It was a couple episodes ago, episode 58, Schroeder's Stories, is what it's called. It's this guy that hit me up, he DM'd me, and he told me about some crazy shit that happened while he was deployed. And I mean, a lot of people, I don't know if you know, but I'm still active duty right now. I have 2 months left. Is it 2 months? Yeah, 2 months. Basically a month. But yeah, and I'm getting out super soon. He hit me up because he saw like my pinned tweet at the time was like talking about that, and he hit me up telling me about his time in. And I'm 11 years in. I'm in the Air Force, so I'm a mechanic, so I'm fairly cushy job. And then he was like, he's been in for less than 4 because he's getting after first enlistment, and he fucking he saw combat. So he was a gunner in a helicopter, and he did some fucked up shit. And like we talked about it, and it's a very powerful episode. We kind of go into reasons not to join, and reasons why we joined. Yeah, I definitely highly recommend that, and then like share it around because it's episode 58.
Well, if you'll send me that episode, Jose, I will tag that in this episode so that people can immediately just click it and go to it, because that'll be awesome whenever that drops. That's or is it already dropped?
It's already dropped. It's episode 58.
Yeah. So just ship that to me, and I'll tag that thing. I'll hyperlink it into the episode.
Yeah,
that's badass. All right, guys. This has been super fun. Jose's obviously incredibly intelligent, and everyone should follow him. His Twitter and his YouTube are linked down in the description. He also, I believe, you're on most or all of the podcatchers, and they can follow you there. So iTunes, Spotify, whatever. You guys go check him out there. This will be the last Derailed episode temporarily. I've got some other shit that I need to deal with that I've been not getting taken care of. And so we are going to take a break and figure that out to correct some circumstances. Other than that, my Twitter's in there. You can follow me. You can ask me any questions you want. I may or may not answer you. Probably not, generally. But hey, Jose, man, this was awesome. I appreciate you doing this, bud.
Yeah, it was fun stuff. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Later, people.